There are more cheap watches in the world than angry comments on Reddit, but does that mean they're all worth buying? Of course not. For most, you'd be better off balancing dog droppings on your wrist as a kind of rudimentary sundial. So to save you the effort, I've compiled a list of bargain busters that will keep your wallet healthy and your wrist dog dropping free. The last one is the cheapest watch I've ever seen. In terms of cost to risk, the Casio F91W is the least amount of spend for the most amount of watch. Like a faithful Labrador, it will stay by your side, never let you down, stick with you through your highs and lows, and after about 7 years or so, die. Unlike the Labrador, the Casio has a replaceable battery, but I'm not going to recommend the F91W here, but the slightly more expensive A168. Think of it as the golden retriever to the F91W's Labrador. No one's really quite sure what the difference is, except the golden retriever somehow seems classier. In metal, the A168 will stretch your budget to a whole £28, making it one of the cheapest metal watches in the world, and despite costing less than the train ride to go get it, it adds a little extra something to the Casio experience. First of all, it's not made of the trim from the lower half of a Renault. Yes, the resin in the F91W is probably going to still be there at the bottom of the ocean by the time it's a desert, but it still can't live up to the premium feel of genuine, maybe, steel. It's like the age-old tradition of upgrading from plastic cutlery on your 16th birthday. The feel of steel is unparalleled, and with it you command the respect of your peers and elders both. You wouldn't wear Velcro shoes to work or pull your trousers all the way down to your ankles at the urinal, and so should you upgrade your plastic watch to one honed from God's own alloy. Not to mention, it has a fun set of features like a chronograph, calendar, and even a little light that doubles up as the worst torch ever made. As much as I wish the Seiko 5 was an Enid Blyton story about a group of nosy children that go on adventures around Tokyo, it's actually a watch series created to be both brilliant and affordable. Thankfully, it does both, because with the power of 5, every single one has an automatic movement, water resistance, a day and date display, a durable case, and a crown at 4 o'clock. The last one feels a bit like filler, but 3 would have been too few and 4's just weird, so 5 it is. The rest of that stuff is great, and if you look around you can still snatch up some of the older generation Seiko 5 stuff for less than £100. That can't even buy a banana, a pint of milk and a loaf of bread these days. Probably. I'd have to ask my personal shopper. But if you're looking for something current gen, there's bargains to be had, because the SRPE is available as low as £179. First, it's blue, which already adds 10 points in cool factor, but also it's really smart and loses some of that "my nan bought it for me at the market stall" feel that older Seiko 5s had. There's sunburst dials, fabric straps that can be upgraded to bracelets, that 4R36 automatic caliber with hacking and a 41-hour power reserve, and enough luminescent paint on the hands and markers to guide lost ships back to shore. But mostly it's just a really well-made watch from a respected watchmaker that's solid and reliable and will last just as long as anything that rhymes with Donex. It's a testament to the ability of the Japanese to make everything better, cheaper, and in greater numbers. I bet they'd nail cars and consumer electronics. If I said to you, "Stephen, did you know you can get a dive watch that's properly water resistant, has an automatic movement that wasn't built during the Cold War, and is made out of non-dissolvable materials for only £77, you'd tell me your name isn't Stephen and accuse me of lying about the watch. But Stephen, I'm not lying, because this is the Invicta Pro Diver, and not only is it very supportive of underwater activities, but it's also incredibly accomplished despite costing as little as the average London beer. Yes, this is the same company that brought you such monstrosities as the Purple Skull Artist and the Gladiator Chronograph, and despite such war crimes, I want you to put that out of your mind in the same way you do the contents of a sausage when you chow down. Unlike many other Invicta watches, the Pro Diver is completely pig anus free, and that's a guarantee. It's not the size of a small garden shed, it doesn't have a colour palette of yes, and it won't haunt your dreams until the day you die. If anything, it just looks like a Submariner. It operates like one too, with the 40mm stainless steel case protecting the very reliable Seiko NH3 5 to 200 meters. Whether you can stomach buying a watch from Invicta is really down to you. If you still enjoy the usual suspects, Stephen, perhaps you'll be fine. For others, the name might be tainted. It's a shame because the Pro Diver is a really good watch. It's made with care and respect and probably offers some of the best value in the world. Shame about the other stuff. Back in the 1500s, when the age of exploration was just beginning, seafaring adventurers took to the waves to discover the secrets of Earth's furthest corners. But it wasn't all swashbuckling and doubloons. This was before WebMD was invented, and so when sailors began feeling tired, getting joint pain and bleeding at the gums, they were unable to self-diagnose it as cancer. It's this period of scientific enlightenment celebrated by dive watch manufacturer Scurfa with the 224-pound topside crew Treasure Seeker, featuring a teal blue dial reminiscent of the bruising suffered by sailors malnourished of vitamin C, and a hexagonal pattern evoking the scaly flakes of the sailor's drying skin. The topside crew is about as cheap as good quality luxe sports watches get. Notice those ear-like structures left and right of the case. Those hark back to the swollen glands sailors would experience either side of their neck. There's a Swiss-made Ronde quartz inside the 41mm stainless steel case, which also gets 200 meters of water resistance, ready for anything the briny deep can throw at it. Except a 300 meter deep bit, I suppose. The Scurfa is all about premium materials, and so you'll get anti-reflective coated sapphire for the crystal, grade A superluminova for the loom, and high quality rubber for the strap. The steel is modern surgical grade 316L rather than period correct surgical grade wood, and proudly manufactured in Germany is the supplied twist box that protects it on the cargo ship from China. Basically, if the idea of the Tiffany Patek Philippe Nautilus lifts your ship and you've only got a few hundred to spend, this is a far better way to do it than buying an all but name fakie. You'd never have guessed a list of cheapest watches could contain a skeletonized tourbillon, but then you never were any good at guessing. Yet here it is, the Agelocer double-sided hollow skeleton tourbillon manual mechanical watch. If you'd guessed that the less than elegant name was a giveaway that the watch heralds from China, then congratulations, because you've redeemed your guessing reputation. Before we continue, I want you to do something for me. I want you to jump onto the Gerald Charles website and navigate yourself to the Maestro Squelette in steel. For the lazy, I'll do that for you because that's a £51,800 watch. Come back to the Agelocer, we'll just call it the Skeleton Tourbillon, and the price here is £650. It's pricey in the company of this list, but compared to other skeletonized watches, it's basically free, and it's got a tourbillon. I'm imagining you imagining this watch, and I'm imagining you're imagining this is the biggest discrepancy between expectation and reality since the Phantom Menace. Weirdly, it's actually not. It's actually pretty decent. The case is fine, reasonably finished. The CNC machining in the skeletonized bridgework is all good, even stopping by to pop a quick shine on the bevels. There's two mainspring barrels to keep power going for 80 hours, and yes, the tourbillon actually works. I have two gripes about this watch, and they're so minor you could get Antonio Banderas to star in a film about them. One, it would be great if the balance wheel was also silver, and two, I'd love it if the branding didn't look like the name tag sewn into a school sweater. That's really it. Otherwise, there is nothing to complain about, not at this price or even more. A friend of mine has purchased one, and so far it hasn't exploded in his face or tried to connect to his 5G. The tourbillon is still tourbillonning, the skeleton is still skeletonizing, and he's very pleased with it. Oh, and I should also mention, he owns a Royal Oak Openworked too. There's a phenomenon in cinematographer circles where camera owner-operators need to dress their camera up with as much gear as possible to make it look the most professional. Doesn't matter if there's just a GoPro buried in there. It's got to have a handle, rails, follow focus, matte box, EVF, screen, V-lock plate, and anything else you can bolt onto it just so it looks like it's straight off a Hollywood set. Why? It feels cooler. Same with when you go on holiday. You might join the back of the queue that extends all the way to the coach park. You might walk past many hot dog stands on your journey. But if you're wearing tan trousers with zippy pockets and a cool adventurer's watch, you feel like Indiana Jones. The Timex Expedition Camper is the budget-conscious explorer's go-to wristwear, because at just $39.99, it'll be cheaper than anything you can buy from the gift shop on the way out. Doesn't matter if you're on the safari at the local zoo, discovering new cultures on a weekend city break, or braving the extremes from the safety of a guided tour, this little fella can be right there gathering memories with you. It's well sized at 39mm and only 9.5mm tall. The black resin case is tough and can take a beating. There's 50 meters water resistance and, because it's an electrically powered quartz, an indiglo nightlight that glows at the push of a button. Not to mention that on the tan fabric strap, it'll go perfectly with your zippy pocket trousers. Designed in the style of the wartime field watches, it has a date and a 24-hour scale, so you can up the realism on your adventure by only issuing the time in the 24-hour format. If you really want to take it to the next level, you can keep it on Zulu time. And for added real-life benefit, the indigo light, unlike others, is actually bright enough to use as a torch in the pitch black, in case you need to find the campsite toilet in the middle of the night. Okay, I want you to pretend the comments section doesn't exist for a moment when my next recommendation for a cheap watch you should actually get turns out to be a MoonSwatch. Which it is. It's a MoonSwatch. Why am I recommending this odious wrist scab to you? Because it's actually carved out a pretty unique niche when it comes to affordable watches. Yes, it's made out of plastic too cheap to choke a turtle, and yes, the strap couldn't be worse if it gave you a rash, but hear me out. If the MoonWatch, the proper metal one Omega has made a few of, is the watch of your dreams, but you can't afford more than £240, then this is literally the only watch you can buy. And it's not all bad. The spring bars are basically the same as the original, and I'm sure the battery will last many times. And you never have to worry about scratching it because it's simply impossible not to scratch. The MoonSwatch could sit in a NASA cleanroom overnight on a bank holiday, and it would still end up like a Mustang leaving a car meet. But it doesn't matter, because there's nothing else that says Omega and Speedmaster on it that isn't an Omega Speedmaster. It may be the Omega Speedmaster we already have at home, but as a kid growing up with a Sony television and a Nintendo Maxi Drive, I can tell you having those is still way better than using my imagination to, whatever. The MoonSwatch honestly isn't as bad as all that. Well, it is, but it's easy to forgive. It's like that guy who always trips and knocks stuff over, burns his lunch and forgets his laptop. He should, by all accounts, have been dealt with by evolution, but it doesn't matter because he's fun to have around. Same with the MoonSwatch. It's not the best Moonwatch, but it's our MoonSwatch. I don't think I've ever met anyone who doesn't like pizza. Okay, so there are some people who don't have pizza because of dietary or belief reasons, and for them they have my sympathies. But for everyone else, I don't think there's a person alive who said, nah, pizza's not really my thing. Sure, there might be an aversion to certain toppings, like the abomination that is ham and pineapple, but pizza in general, I refuse to believe it. The reason is that pizza is, at its core, a combination of basic ingredients upon which civilization is built. Bread, tomato sauce, and cheese. I've met someone who doesn't like tomato sauces before, and I think they had to be put down. It was for the best. A life of misery isn't a life worth living. The Citizen Siosa applies the same principle as pizza. Just combine all the best bits and you can't go wrong. So it gets a Rolex Oyster Perpetual dial available in a selection of familiar colours, an integrated case and president-style bracelet, an automatic movement, and a low price of £285. There's even a Fume-style smoky dial, should you be that way inclined. Some might call it cheating, but if Omega can get away with it with the £6,200 Aquaterra shades, then I see no reason why Citizen can't do it too. Naturally, the 40mm steel case contains a Citizen movement. It's sealed to 50 meters, and there's scratch-resistant sapphire gleaming away up front, complete with a magnifying window. Okay, so the magnifying window is just getting cocky, but with this build quality, it's forgivable. It's really one of those what more can you want kind of watches that literally does anything you'd ever expect any watch you buy to do. Just like pizza. If I could have pizza every day, I would. It's like the Honda C90, the Canon Rebel T3i, the Squire Strat. Orient is the best first watch money can buy. Available in many different arrangements as cheap as £130, it manages to not only be the bridge into mechanical watchmaking for a cash-strapped student, but even for an experienced pro, it's still worth having around, if only for old time's sake. It has a soul and a character about it that brings people back to its charms again and again, from just getting started to going back to grassroots basics. It's as simple as watches get. Well, almost. There's a center second and date on most, which are technically complications, and that's just a taste of all the fun you're going to have buying into one of these things. The movements are automatic, in-house surprisingly enough, and whilst they're hardly the last word in precision and finesse, will probably last longer than you. That's not a threat, that's a promise. Cases span from 38mm to 42, with enough water resistance to be splash-proof, and a mineral glass crystal that gives some scratch resistance. What will last as long as the watch, however, are the looks, which keep things simple by sticking to classic timelessness. My favourites are the Calatrava-esque 38mm models, which I've seen as low as £230. They get the 40-hour caliber F6724, which can be seen through the clear case bag. It's not only perfect for you, but it's the perfect watch for gifting too, should you feel so inclined. I can't guarantee this because some people are just ungrateful, but I can't think of many collectors who wouldn't be pleased to add one to their collections. And if you know someone you've been coaxing into the hobby, who's teetering on the edge of falling into this dark and cavernous pit, this is the watch that could be the push. There's a reason Honda made the C90, Canon the Rebel, and Fender the Squire. Because once they've got you good. The last watch is probably the most ridiculous because not only is it cheap, it's the cheapest. At the price of just a single penny, everything about it is going to be bad. That case will be stamped from the finest cheese, the movement will boast all the precision of a drunken sniper, and the strap will hold together as well as a freshly dumped teenager. But, it costs a penny. If it lasts just a single year, which I'm confident it can, it will only be beaten by the next cheapest watch here, the Casio. If the Casio lasts for 2,800 years. If it only lasts a month, the Casio will still have to do time to keep up. 233 years. This watch is so cheap there's literally no denomination of currency in my country to get it any cheaper. Do I recommend you buy it? No, not in ordinary circumstances. The Casio will outperform it in literally every respect. It's not water resistant, so it won't make a good holiday watch. It's not well made, so it doesn't make for a good gift, despite what the product description might tell you. This is the kind of watch you gift to your enemy, not your friend, in the hope that strap comes with a helping of flesh-eating bacteria. But if you have the lowest amount of money possible to have before having no money, you're miserable, everything sucks, and you just want to do one thing that might bring you a little bit of cheer as you try and work things out, there are worse things you could get yourself for a single penny. It's no coincidence that this hobby is tied intrinsically to the most valuable currency of all, time. A watch is a celebration of the time we've enjoyed and a stark reminder of the time we have left. If this watch can give someone the motivation to do better, to help themselves where others haven't or can't, then it's worth every single penny. What cheap watch have you seen that you think is an absolute must-have? Let me know down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and if you want to support me, you can do so by picking up some merch just below the video. And don't forget to assert your dominance by talking over everyone else. Goodbye. Still here? Watch this video next.